Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So you've probably watched our worst cars on Pawnstars video, part 1. So now it's time for part 2. Up first, we have a classic, especially if you watch the Back to the Future movies. The DeLorean had a checkered life, with production only running for a couple of years due to the owner of the company being arrested on drug trafficking charges. With production costs overrunning, the launch being delayed, and the cost of the car being equivalent to nearly $80,000 in today's money for an overweight, slow and unreliable car. This car has sentimental value for anyone who loves the Back to the Future franchise, which includes the Pawnstars boys. But at its base level, the DeLorean DMC-12 is not a good sports car. Sure, it might be one of the most recognisable prop cars of all time, and it's quite a head-turner, but real enthusiasts know it's a dud on 4 wheels. With an underpowered engine, a high curb weight, and bad transmission, the DeLorean is certainly nowhere near the level of any other sports car. Buying one that's been modified to resemble a film car is just a poor business decision. The fact it was bought for nearly $25,000 makes this an exercise in futility. In 1996, the Imperial Crown convertible was in the last year of the second generation model, but it also happened to be the old man's favourite car. This classic car belongs to the old man, aka Richard Harrison, the late patriarch of the Pawnstars family. It took him 15 years to convince the Crown's previous owner to sell it to him, and it was in poor shape after spending over 30 years in the desert sun, plus 6 years in the back lot of the pawn shop. In one episode, Richard's son Rick and grandson Corey pretended to sell the car for $1,000 to someone wanting to turn it into a lowrider. The old man's reaction was furious. "Both of y'all are getting fixed to get the wrath of God from me," he said. Later on, the famous car was nearly laid to rest when the engine burst into flames due to a loose fuel hose, but it was recovered, though we're not sure how reliable of a buy it was. In one of the episodes, it shows Corey paying to have the car restored to its former glory for the old man. Up next, and it could possibly be one of the worst ever bought, is the 1964 Austin Healey Sprite. This was a Mark III model. The main difference between this car and later models was a strange one. It didn't have door handles. However, when this model came into the shop, Rick and the gang were understandably very excited. The chance to buy a very British car in America doesn't come around that often. However, in a 2010 episode, a guy showed up at the shop with a really nice looking 1964 Austin Healey Sprite BRG. He tried to start it and the engine didn't turn over. The owner said it ran fine, but that the battery must be dead. He wanted $10,000 for the car, but Rick eventually settled on $5,000. The owner never even popped the hood to see if the engine was warm. Rather, Rick said, "Well, it must have run to get you here, you wouldn't have pushed it." That's a facepalm deserving statement, as it could have easily been towed or transported. When he took the car to his mechanic, he found out he was looking at $6,000 of repairs, making this quite an expensive buy. Lastly, we have a crazy moment from Corey, who went all out on a purchase even after concerns were raised about this 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. This car was bought by Corey, who's the son of Rick, and it's a cool piece of nostalgia and a collector's item, but as reflected in the episode in which he bought the car, it is clearly a purchase made by someone with ample disposable income. It was not a practical buy, but rather a buy he made because he wanted to personally own the car. Therefore, he set himself up to lose the shop money. Rick voiced concerns over his son's lavish spending habits, going so far as to slice his credit card in half. It was bought for $40,000 and eventually put on sale in various venues for prices of between $60,000 and $100,000, but it never sold. Unfortunately, Hagerty values the car at just $36,000, making this quite a terrible purchase at the end of it all. Corey loves this car, which is why he overspent on it.